The sleet-encrusted alien corpses littered the frozen ground around James, their blue blood steaming in the sub-zero air. Zephyr gaped in disbelief as the humans stood strong and unfazed by the blizzard's icy onslaught that had slain his Nigean crew. James Brown, rugged human explorer, had joined the Nigean survey mission to this uncharted ice world in hopes of securing vital resources to help rebuild Earth and Nigeria 4 after their devastating war. But now their crashed ship lay half-buried in snow, and lethal cold had reduced the aliens to shivering wrecks. Only James endured, pressing on with critical survival tasks, as if the brutal conditions barely touched him. "How can you withstand this freezing hell?" Zephyr demanded, his voice quaking. "This temperature kills Nigeans in minutes." James met the commander's shocked stare. "We humans evolved in wild climates, scorching heat, bitter cold, thin air. Our ancestors' resilience flows in my veins." Emotions warred in Zephyr's eyes: awe, resentment, fear of what these hardened humans could do. James turned away, knowing trust between their species was fragile as glass. The humans set out into the screaming white storm to scout for shelter and hunt, driven by an instinct to survive and protect the remaining Nigeans. But beneath the ice, James discovered signs of a terrible betrayal. A hidden Nigean military base, proof of a sinister agenda behind their exploratory mission. Returning to camp, he confronted Zephyr, and tensions exploded into a violent showdown. In that instant, a monstrous predator attacked, all fangs and fury. James leapt into action, using his cold tolerance to draw the beast away, battling fang and claw in the howling blizzard to save the cowering Nigeans. Blood stained the snow. The creatures lay dead. Silence fell. Zephyr met James's eyes, shaken, shamed, but still defiant. "This changes nothing between us, human," he growled as their rescue ship carved through the storm. James stood his ground. "Maybe not, but I'm staying to find the truth your people want buried here." Leaving the battered aliens behind, the lone human set out across the frozen waste, determined to unearth the secrets of the Nigean ice base, or die trying. The battle for the planet had only begun. James trudged through the howling blizzard, his mind racing with questions about the Nigeans' true intentions on this frozen world. The hidden base loomed ahead, a dark shadow in the swirling white. He pushed forward, driven by a burning need for answers. Inside the abandoned facility, James discovered a trove of advanced cold weather gear and weapons, all designed to withstand the planet's brutal conditions. The Nigeans had come prepared for a long-term operation. As he delved deeper, the truth became clear. The aliens had planned to claim the world's resources for themselves, using the survey mission as a cover. Far away, on the Nigean homeworld, Zephyr faced his superiors in a tense debriefing. He recounted the mission's disastrous end and the humans' uncanny resilience. The Nigean leaders listened in stunned silence, their shock giving way to unwavering dedication. They couldn't let one human jeopardize their plans. Zephyr was ordered to return with a heavily armed force and secure the planet at any cost. Back on the ice world, James made a chilling discovery: evidence of a Nigean plot to sabotage human colonies on similar harsh worlds. He had to warn Earth. With numb fingers, he tapped out an urgent transmission, but before he could send it, the base's systems went dark. An unknown interference had cut him off. The roar of engines filled the sky as Zephyr's fleet arrived in orbit. James raced outside, only to see fiery streaks raining down on the base. The bombardment shattered the complex, sending icy debris flying. James lunged for cover, narrowly escaping the destruction. With the base lost, he fled into a maze of underground ice caves. Zephyr's troops landed, armed with advanced weapons and gear. But James was ready. He used his knowledge of the terrain to stage hit-and-run attacks, ambushing patrols and stealing their equipment. The Nigeans' technology, so effective in milder climates, proved less reliable in the extreme cold. James pressed his advantage, using the environment itself as a weapon. Earth received fragments of James's warning before the transmission cut out. They dispatched reinforcements, but it would take months for the fleet to arrive. James was on his own, facing an entire occupation army. He fell back on his training, his wits, and the one advantage he had over the Nigians: his human biology, forged in the crucible of Earth's harshest environments. As the occupation dragged on, the Nigian soldiers grew more fearful of the ghost-like human who seemed to thrive in the icy wastes. Stories spread of James's impossible feats, his uncanny ability to appear and disappear at will. Morale plummeted as the aliens realized they were facing no ordinary foe. Zephyr seethed with frustration as his forces failed to eliminate the lone human. In a desperate bid to end the conflict, he challenged James to a final showdown, deep in the heart of the ice caves. James accepted, seeing a chance to end the Nigian threat and uncover the full scope of their plans. In the eerie blue light of the caves, the two warriors clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand battle. James fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, his moves swift and unpredictable. Zephyr was a skilled combatant, but James' resilience and adaptability proved too much. In a final desperate struggle, James emerged victorious, leaving Zephyr broken and defeated. With their leader fallen, the Nigian forces collapsed into disarray. James, battered but unbowed, emerged from the caves to see the human fleet arriving at last. As medics tended to his wounds, James shared the intelligence he had gathered, painting a disturbing picture of the Nigians' true ambitions. Earth had won this battle, but a greater war loomed on the horizon. James looked to the stars, knowing his actions on this remote world were just the beginning. The Nigians had underestimated the potential of human physiology and the strength of the human spirit. As Earth braced for the conflicts to come, James knew that those same qualities would be humanity's greatest weapons in the galactic arena. James Brown stared at the holographic display, his face etched with grim focus. The Nigian invasion fleet loomed large, a swarm of hostile ships bearing down on Earth. He knew humanity needed more time to prepare its defenses. "We hit them where they least expect it," James told his team of resistance fighters. "They're shipyards." Under cover of darkness, James and his team infiltrated a Nigian shipyard orbiting a gas giant in the outer system. They moved silently through maintenance tunnels, avoiding patrols. At last, they reached the central computer core. "Plant the virus," James ordered. His tech expert plugged in a data chip, uploading the disruptive code into the shipyard's construction firmware. Alarms blared. "Time to go," James said. They barely escaped as Nigian security forces converged on their position, but the damage was done. Days later, James watched from his stealth ship as newly deployed Nigian warships began to malfunction. Their hulls frosted over as environmental systems went haywire. "Lure that cruiser towards the ice field," James commanded. His pilot complied, drawing the Nigian ship into a deadly trap. As it entered the field, James triggered hidden mines. The cruiser erupted in a ball of fire. More Nigian ships fell victim to James's tactics. He orchestrated precise system shutdowns, sending vessels plunging into the atmospheres of sub-zero gas giants. Human strike teams in cold-resistant gear boarded the crippled ships, overwhelming the incapacitated Nigian crews. The Nigian fleet fell into disarray. Admiral Krevnax raged at his subordinates. "Find those human vermin!" But James was always one step ahead. His guerrilla strikes continued to whittle down Nigian numbers. Then disaster struck. A massive Nigian bombardment pummeled the human colony on Arcus 7. James and his team barely escaped the inferno, fleeing into the planet's scorching deserts. As James trudged through dunes under the relentless sun, realization dawned. "The heat," he said. "We can use it against them." James's team set up mirages and decoys, luring Nigian ground forces deep into the wasteland. When the aliens were at their limit, James sprung the trap. His troops emerged from hidden shelters, their bodies adapted to the heat. The Nigians wilted in their environment suits as the humans picked them off. Hijacking Nigian excavators, James' forces unleashed blinding sandstorms. The aliens' sensors were useless in the maelstrom of superheated particles. Human soldiers, eyes protected by goggles, moved in for the kill. James led a daring raid on a Nigerian command post. Inside, he discovered a treasure trove of invasion plans. He quickly transmitted the data to Earth's defense fleet. "This changes everything," the human admiral said upon receiving James's intel. "We can exploit their environmental weaknesses." But James wasn't done. He turned his attention to Arcus 7's oceanic moon. Nigerian naval stations dotted its icy seas. James and his team donned deep sea gear and slipped into the frigid water. They struck from below, their bodies acclimated to the crushing cold and pressure. The Nigerians never saw them coming. James planted charges on key structural points, then detonated them simultaneously. The stations imploded. As James's forces routed the last Nigerian defenders on Arcus 7, reports came in of the main invasion fleet changing course. They were coming for him. "They're desperate now," James told his remaining troops as they retreated to their mountain stronghold. "Time for one last stand." Deep in the volcanic ranges, James and his skeleton crew prepared their defenses. They would make the Nigerians pay dearly for every inch of ground. And when the end came, they would go down fighting, knowing they had given Earth a fighting chance. The first Nigerian dropships appeared on the horizon. James checked his weapon. "Let's show them what humans are made of." James Brown wiped sweat from his brow as he surveyed the volcanic hellscape of Arcus 7. The air shimmered with heat, and sulfurous fumes stung his nostrils. His small band of fighters huddled in the shadow of a jagged obsidian outcropping, their faces etched with exhaustion and grim tenacity. "This is it," James said, his voice low and steady. "Our last stand." Private Rodriguez, a wiry veteran with haunted eyes, nodded. "We'll make these bastards pay." James led his team deeper into the fiery landscape. They scrambled over razor-sharp volcanic rock, the soles of their boots sizzling from the intense heat. Ahead loomed the maw of an ancient lava tube, a black wound in the mountainside. As they entered the suffocating darkness of the tunnel network, the distant rumble of Nigerian ships grew louder. James activated his wrist computer, bringing up a holographic map of the caverns. "We rig these tunnels," he ordered. "Every junction, every choke point. When those alien bastards come in after us, we'll give them a taste of hell." For hours, they worked in the sweltering darkness. James's fingers flew over detonator controls, linking explosive charges to geothermal vents. The air grew thick with the acrid smell of ozone and melted circuitry. A tremor shook the cavern. Dust and pebbles rained down. "They're here," James growled. The first Nigerian troops appeared at the tunnel entrance, their armored suits gleaming in the volcanic glow. James waited, pulse pounding as the aliens advanced. "Now!" he roared. The tunnel erupted. Charges detonated in thunderous succession, reshaping the cavern system in an instant. Walls of lava burst through newly opened fissures, engulfing the Nigerian vanguard. Their screams were cut short as molten rock consumed them. James and his team fell back deeper into the maze, springing trap after trap. Nigerian bodies piled up in the tunnels, their armor melted and fused to charred flesh. But still they came. Wave after wave of Nigerian troops poured into the inferno. James fought like a man possessed, leading ambushes from hidden alcoves, triggering rock falls, unleashing rivers of magma. A plasma bolt seared past James's face, singeing his hair. He ducked behind a boulder, heart racing. The Nigerians were adapting, pushing deeper into the network. James keyed his comm. "Plan B, open the fissures." Throughout the mountain, explosions rocked the tunnel system. The very bedrock of Arcus 7 split open. Titanic flows of lava burst forth, flooding entire sections of the caverns. James watched in awe as a sea of molten rock swept away hundreds of Nigerian soldiers. The mountain itself had become a weapon. As the battle raged, human colonist militia joined the fray. They emerged from hidden bunkers, their bodies acclimated to the brutal heat. Armed with makeshift weapons, They struck at Nigerian flanks and supply lines. James led a daring raid on a Nigerian landing zone. His team moved like wraiths through clouds of volcanic ash, planting charges on the aliens' power reactors. As they retreated, the sky lit up with nuclear fire. One by one, Nigerian strongholds vanished in apocalyptic explosions. The tide turned. Human capital ships punched through the weakened Nigerian fleet. James coordinated with the orbiting armada, herding the aliens into killing zones of fire and molten stone. In the aftermath, James emerged from the tunnels. His uniform hung in tatters, and livid burns covered half his face. He surveyed the devastation, a world remade by violence and elemental fury. A Marine corporal approached, eyes wide with awe. "Sir," he stammered, thank you." James nodded grimly, his scarred visage a mask of pain and iron will. He activated a comm channel, broadcasting to all human worlds. "This is only the beginning," he rasped. "The real war starts now."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.